What's up, y'all? It's your boy Sean P back again with another edition of Hip Hop Roundtable Reviews. Hope y'all are having a nice morning. We're coming to you early this morning on Saturday. So y'all are probably just getting out of bed, getting your Saturday started, your Saturday weekend started and whatnot. But it's time for another review. I've been dying to review this album because this album, one surprised me, and I kind of have to own one of my takes from last year that I didn't think that this artist would win uh, in 2024. But anyway, today we are going to review LL Cool J, The Force, that came out last week, last Friday. Sort of went under the radar. There was a buzz about LL for a while that he was doing a collaborative album with Q-Tip. It's labeled LL Cool J, The Force. It's really a Q-Tip collaboration, as Q-Tip did the majority of the beats and I believe executive produced this album. Um, and yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to do our review and do what we usually do, talk about what I liked, what I didn't like, and we're going to sum it up all in the end. So with that, I'm going to pull up our track list for LL Cool J, The Force, and we're going to walk through the album as to what were the best songs, the songs that kind of we could do without, you know. So LL Cool J, The Force. First, I want to own that last year I did a post or a broadcast, if you will, on Hip Hop Roundtable Reviews that I didn't think LL Cool J will work in 2024. LL Cool J for years has been an artist that, stayed trendy with the times, and he stayed making more radio-like records for the clubs and the ladies. I mean, I believe in the early 2000s, he had a song called Head Sprung that he did with Timberland. This was probably his last most notable hit in the early 2000s. He did Head Sprung, which is a club banger, or what have you. But I looked at it like, how would LL translate 20 years later in an era of trap, drill, New York drill, or what have you, turn up beats, and how would he translate in a mainstream era where he would be so out of place? So basically, he did a collaborative project with Q-Tip, another legendary artist and producer from his era, late 80s, early 90s, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame member, both Rock and Roll Hall of Fame members, actually, with Tribe Called Quest. And they put a collaborative project together called The Force. And I had questions about it, but all I got to say is it worked. It worked big time. And let's get into the review. So, what did I like? I love the lyrical artistry on this project. I love the fact that LL really went in his bag. LL came back different on this album. It was a different type of lyrical energy. He was doing a lot of third person narratives, out of describing him being through the eyes of a certain person. He did a lot of introspective narratives in this. As far as lyrical energy, his bar game was superb. You know what I mean? I mean, his bar game was on another level. I've never heard him this lyrical on a project. LL's been lyrical in the past, but again, he tended to be more radio friendly. He was more the radio friendly artist in the 90s and the early 2000s, when he was in his prime, you know what I mean, from 80s to 90s to early 2000s. But he would let you know and jump on Cypher Records to let you know I can really rap. I could stand out amongst the great lyricists of the time. So lyrical artistry I really liked on this project. Some of the standout songs, I like how it started. The Spirit of Cyrus, where again he's doing like a third person type of narrative, you know what I mean? Basically talking about, well, I'm gonna let you listen to the song, but it has to deal with, you know, some race issues. But I love how he did put himself and personified himself in that song. Snoop added a nice hook to that. The Force, which was again a lyrical, just him running rings lyrically around a competition. Just really the lyrical energy on that was fire. Really, he really delivered on that. And one of my highlight tracks on here, Saturday Night Special, which I think is a feature track of the year, one of the feature tracks of the year. Rick Ross, who always does his thing on features, he always adds a good energy to a feature record, does his thing. And same thing with Fat Joe, another artist from the classic era who's now a podcast star now, but still did his thing on that. That's one of my favorite records of the year. I just love the beat. I love the energy. And again, LL is taking more of a third person type of narrative, describing himself or his energy to someone else. I really like that. And then Black Code Suite. That's another one. That's another one of my favorites. I love the beat on there. I just love the beat. I love the energy on that. LL's tone on that record, his swag on there is really good. His bravado, I really like that. The Passion, cool record. Again, short record that was kind of, another one where lyrically he really did his thing. Just tried to show that lyrically he was on another level. You know what I mean? The entendres on there were very dope. That's another song that was cool. I really like the 30 Decembers, which basically is LL putting himself back in the culture 30 years later, coming back to New York. And he's basically describing, well, I mean, I want to let you listen to the song, but it's like him being 30 years removed from, how New York used to be. And it's just a different type of energy. It's different. You know what I mean? And again, he does another third person narrative where he really pulls off. It's not third person, but he puts himself in the shoes of somebody coming back to, New York and the New York, what is the energy in New York, 30 years later, and I didn't even know really he's been away from New York for 30 years or whatever, but it's really, really one of my favorite standout tracks. Introspective type of record right there. And then Run It Back. I like that. I like the flows on there was pretty good. That's another song that was good. And then I really like how it closed out. You know what I mean? I like Huey in the Chair with Busta Rhymes, and how Busta Rhymes really added a good energy to that with his verse on there. I like that song. And I like the song Praise Him. And boy, LL did his thing on there, but man, Nas flexed on there, man. I can't even lie. Nas, he definitely flexed on that. And it's interesting. He has Nas and Eminem back to back on really the last two tracks or whatever. Well, the second to last two tracks, but I really Nas's verse alone, I mean, just gives that an energy all to its own. But I love that record. one of my standout records. And Murdergram Do is probably one of the best lyrical tracks of the year, with him going back and forth with Eminem on here. And I just saw the video for this the other day, which really added to the energy of this song. Probably one of the best lyrical tracks of the year. At first, I didn't really warm up to the record because the beat was kind of different, but you just got to hear it. The song is just fire. Those are kind of my standout tracks. So the lyrical artistry on here is fire. The beats, I put it to you like this. Q-Tip, I mean, you showed why you were a legend on this, because the beats were more soulful with a little bit of funk in there, funky and more soulful, but they fit LL. There was a what's the word I'm looking for? There was a synchrony with LL's beat with Q-Tip's beats and LL's rhymes and flows that really worked. I mean, really, really worked and worked well. And I tell you what, man, like maybe I slept on Q-Tip as a producer over the years, but he's one of the greats. And I just like how it just fit LL's vision on this album. They really worked well together, and the beats were really dope. You know, there weren't bangers on here. There weren't club bangers. They weren't street bangers, which again was kind of a departure from what LL used to do when he was back, you know, in the late 90s, early 2000s. But man, the beats fit LL like a glove. Again, it's another. I'll put it to you like this: this combo, in my opinion, worked a little bit better than Pete Rock and Common and their collaborative project. Now I know I might get some pushback from that because a lot of people are calling the Pete Rock album of the year, but I enjoyed this collaborative project and the collaboration as far as how they fit each other better on the Force than on the Auditorium Part 1, you know. And I know there's one guy that really likes Auditorium Part 1 that is gonna definitely have a rebuttal for me, but I could live with that. Okay, song energy and flows. LL's energy was phenomenal on this record. Phenomenal. His flows, he kind of maintained somewhat the same flows, but he switched up enough to keep you as a listener entertained throughout the album, flow wise, and you heard him, like the quality of his lyrics and the quality of his flows is you heard and understood him. You know, he was understood really well. You know what I mean? Conceptually, this really wasn't an overall concept album per se, but it was basically I take it back to the 2000s, the classic era type of album where he was just telling people, you know, as a rapper, I do this thing. You know, he had some sort of conceptual songs as far as some semi conscious type of records where he talks about race earlier in a couple of the songs. But I mean, conceptually wise, it was a dope album. And so as far as replay value, this is the only album I'm playing right now. This is the only album right now that I will say I could revisit maybe next year. I don't know, maybe Auditorium 1, but the Auditorium 1 versus this, that's another kind of debate. But I like the energy more on this record than Auditorium 1, because Auditorium 1 kind of had a mellow type of slow energy where I could kind of lose interest in songs. This, I was basically you know, on every song, I was on, he kept me entertained. He kept me moving throughout the album where it was never stagnant. And even though there may have been some songs that I didn't care for, the replay value is pretty dope. It's the only album I would probably listen to going into next year. What I didn't like, and I'm not gonna say I didn't really like the Proclivity song with Saweetie. I know he tried to do something for the ladies, kind of live up to his the old LL, how it used to be. I didn't really think the song worked, even though it was a dope song. And in the, I don't want to contradict myself, but in the flow of the album, it worked. It worked. You didn't want to skip over it, but I don't think it was really needed. He didn't really need a Saweetie feature on here, but I get why he did that. He needed something for the ladies to warm up to, but I don't think a song like that is going to work in appealing to modern day females. That's just my opinion. But I don't know, maybe people have other takes on it. I didn't really like that song. And outside of that, he had a posse cut at the end that was pretty cool with some new guys on there, Don Pablito, Jason, and Mad Squabble, some New York energy, a New York energy record that was pretty cool. You know what I mean? Not a skip over, pretty cool. You know what I mean? What was the other one? Basquiat Energy was cool. You know what I mean? Not, but really wasn't anything trash on here. There really wasn't anything that I wanted to say, oh, I'm not gonna deal with this record. I gotta skip this. You know what I mean? But there were some songs that you could say were kind of mid, and you may not want to listen to depending on the mood that you're on. And the features on here, A1 features on here. I mean, Snoop added enough, you know what I mean, as far as the hook is concerned. I really like the Rick Ross of Fat Joe. That's like my feature record of the year. And Nas and Eminem, did they flex lyrically or what on their features? You know what I mean? Even the posse cut at the end, those dudes kind of did their thing as far as not artists that are not being known. And overall, the length of the album was pretty good. I mean, the songs were to the point. I mean, most of the songs were under 3 minutes. Really, there's not much I could say that was really bad about the overall turnout of this project. So I'm gonna go with a 9 out of 10. I tell you what, LL, 20 years later, he put out an album in 2008 that was kind of a miss, but I believe 2004-ish, 2005 was his last kind of notable album from LL. That was the one with Headsprung. It's been about 20 years, and it's very hard for an artist to come back 20 years and put out a quality project. But hats off to Q-Tip. Q-Tip revived an energy in LL that I really have never seen. I mean, I have seen, but it was a different form. This was a different kind of LL, and he really did his thing on this album. Like, I was really impressed by this, to have really a 20 to 17 year hiatus in music and come out with a quality project with this. I gotta say applause and hats off to LL and Q-Tip for the production nod, because this is really impressive. This is kind of like a little bit of reminds me a little bit of the Killer Mike album last year. I would not be surprised if LL gets some Grammy consideration for this, maybe, and get some award attention for this as far as Grammys is concerned. I really enjoyed this album, man. 9 out of 10, LL. You did your thing. You proved me wrong, because last year I did not think LL would work in modern day hip hop, but I tell you what, you did your thing. You did your thing. I can't not give you props for this. Can't not give you props for this. So with that being said, LL Cool J The Force, I'm gonna go with a solid 9 out of 10. This is indie album of the year consideration. Maybe this versus Pete Rock and the Auditorium one, that's somewhat of a debate to have. But I'm very impressed by this. 9 out of 10. Definitely check this out. I think if you're a hip hop fan, you're a fan of the culture, you're really going to enjoy this album. It's really not what I expected, and sometimes that's a good thing when it's not what you expected and you're surprised. And it really impressed me. It really impressed me for a 20-year hiatus for LL to come back and really come off as a more introspective and dominant MC, you know, and really the consideration of, you know, really being one of the top rappers in the game. One possible discussion we need to have is, why is LL not included more in the GOAT conversation debate? Because I tell you what, to come back 20 years with this type of album and really put out very quality of an extremely quality project is impressive. And some of the artists that I'll put it to you like this, hint, hint. Some of the artists that are argued to be Super Bowl performers and did not get a Super Bowl nod haven't come out with a project like this after 10 years. Where you at? You know who I'm talking about. You know what I mean? And if an artist can come back 20 years later and do that, why can't you do it? Because you're considered in the GOAT conversation, if you know. And this is the Super Bowl performer that didn't get the nod. If you know who we're talking about, okay? Where are you at? You know, where's your quality project? Where's your album of the year project? LL could do it after 20 years, but why can't you do it? Something to pause on, okay? So with that, LL Cool J The Force, I'm going with a solid 9 out of 10. And with that, I'm going to try and come back with some new content, maybe in the next couple of days in a week. I'm going to try and get some guests on for this week because there's some topics that I do want to discuss, and some new, very interesting overall hip hop culture debates that I want to talk about. So stay tuned for that. And with that, enjoy your Saturday and enjoy the rest of your weekend. And I'll catch up with y'all soon. All right. Peace.